Okay, so here we have a LaGard Basic fitted to a different one of our safes in our showroom here. It's got the 3000 series input pad and the 4200 series lock body on the inside. We're going to run through the manager instructions and the SMR Super Master Reset code change procedures and just the functions of those two codes. It's important to note before you do any programming, code changing, anything along those lines, that we make sure that we open the safe and we lock the bolts with the door in the open position. So this will make it so we can't actually close the safe and ensures that we get any code change procedures correct before we lock ourselves out of the safe. Now with the Super Master Reset or the SMR code, it's important to note that you do need to change this code immediately. If you don't change it straight away and then you do make a change to your manager code, it'll basically delete the SMR function from the safe. So if you do want to use the SMR function, you do have to change that before you make any manager code changes. To initiate the change procedure, we hold 0 for 3 seconds. You'll see that'll give you a double beep and the red light will stay on. This is just to indicate that it is in the change process. We then enter the default code, which on every one of these locks is 8 times, and it's important to make sure you hold the last digit for 3 seconds. It'll acknowledge that you've done that, double beep and the red light will stay on. We can then press 0 to initiate the code change procedure and then enter our new 8-digit code. It'll double beep, the red light will stay on again, and it wants us to repeat that code to make sure that we entered it how we wanted it. So code's been accepted and it's input because the red light's gone on. The important thing to note is that the code change for the SMR can only be done once, so it's not something that you can change again later on down the track. So think it through, use a number that's again, use a code that isn't relevant to you in any way, so it's not a code that anyone could obtain, because it will allow you to reset the lock to factory specifications. So now we're just going to demonstrate the procedure to reset the lock back to factory settings. Obviously this reset procedure only needs to be done if you lose the manager or user codes. We haven't even input them yet, but obviously you'll be able to put 2 and 2 together once we go through the manager code change, user code change procedures after this. Again, to be able to enter the SMR menu, I guess you can call it, we need to press 0 and hold it for 3 seconds. You'll get the double beep and the red light will stay on. Now we need to enter the current SMR code, which as we changed it, just remember to hold the last digit in again for 3 seconds, wait for the double beep and the red light to stay on. Now we're in the menu, we hit 8 and we'll get 2 short beeps and 1 long beep, which indicates that the lock has been reset back to the factory settings. The important thing to note is that when we do this, what we call a soft reset, it will reset the manager code and any user code that's been input, but it won't reset the SMR code. So from here on out you still need to use the SMR code that you programmed into your safe. Now we'll have a look at the programming method for the manager code now that we have already done the SMR code. The change procedure for the manager code is, I guess, LaGard's trademark, which is a very simple initiation code that you put in to initiate the code change procedure. Again, it's important to make sure when any code changes are done that you lock the door in the open position like we have done, and that way if you do make a mistake or you can't remember the code that you programmed to, it won't allow you to lock the safe until you get that code correct. So to initiate the change code procedure for the manager code, we enter 0 6 times. You'll see the red light will stay on after giving you the double beep again. It wants us to input the current manager code, which is 1 2 3 4 5 6. Again, a double beep and the red light will stay on. We choose a new code that we wish to use. Double beep, the red light staying on again, and we repeat that code. Light goes off, code's been accepted. If at any stage through that procedure you get something incorrect, so if you don't put the code in identically twice in a row, it will just revert back to the code it was on before you entered the code change procedure. Now with this particular lock, we have the ability to activate a user code. So it's a second code that will be allowed to open the safe, but this code will be controlled by the manager. So the manager has the ability to activate the user code, to disable the user, reinstate the user, and delete the user. So we'll run through all those procedures. The first time that we activate a user code, obviously there is no user code in the safe lock at the moment, so we do need to input which code we're going to use. Any subsequent activations from there will just be the standard procedure, as it will retain the code that you've already input. So we need to put the current code in there, the current manager code, and hold down the last digit. Once we receive the extra beeps, we know it's in the programming mode. We press 1, and now we have to choose the code that we wish to use for the user. Double beep, light stays on, and just repeat the code again to make sure we did it correctly. Light flash, light goes out. This indicates that code has been programmed successfully. We should be able to test the code and unlock the safe. So now we have activated a user, so we have two codes in here that can open the safe, the manager code and the new user code that we just programmed in. If we want to disable a user, now don't think of disable as deleting a user, it's just simply turning it off. So if you do wish to give periodic access to the safe for some particular codes, you can disable them and reinstate them whenever you like, just by a simple button press procedure. When we want to disable the user, it will still remember the code, but it will just deactivate it until you reinstate it. To disable the user, we have to enter the manager code again and hold down the last digit until we get the double beep and the light stays on, and then we press 2. That's all it is. So now we can test that code, and it will give us 3 beeps and the safe won't unlock because the code has been disabled. To reinstate that code again, we'll use the manager to enter the programming mode, hold down the last number. When the light stays on, we press 1. Again, it gives us the same indicator, which is a double beep, the light flash, and then the light goes out. We should be able to test the user code here. Double beep, safe unlocks. So we've just managed to disable it and reinstate it. If we want to delete the user code, again, we just enter the programming mode with the manager code, hold down the last number, double beep, light stays on, and we press 3. So now the code has been completely deleted. We can test it again. 3 beeps, safe won't unlock. The manager code still is programmed, there's no change to that. It will still open the safe, but we've deleted the user code. Now when we want to activate a user code again, it'll ask us to input the code at the time of activation. So we can just go back to the activate user step we just did in this video. As for the manager and SMR codes, that's all the features that are over and above the programming that you would have found in the first video on LaGard Basic. So if there's any information that you may have missed, you can scoot back to the other video and have a quick look through that. I can't stress enough, it's always important to make sure that the safe door is open when any of these programming methods are undertaken. What we did in this video with the SMR code is what's commonly referred to as a soft reset. However, with access to the back or the lock body on the inside of the safe, safe technicians are able to do a hard reset of the lock. So that's your backup if you do manage to forget the manager or user codes. So just make sure you do follow that rule every time. So that's all the programming functions for the SMR and the manager programming. If there's any of the more basic functions or details that you missed, make sure you check out our other video which goes through the the typical function of the LaGard Basics, including the battery change, the opening and closing procedures, and the normal manager code changing. There's also a few tips to keep in mind when you are doing any programming, so make sure that you check out the other video for those the key tips.